Welcome back to Basics of Faith. Today, we are talking all about fasting. Now, I've been fasting all day today, and we're going to talk about what that experience has been like in just a bit. But before we do, let's discuss what is fasting? Why is it a spiritual practice, and how can it help us get closer to God? Let's get started. Okay, so what is fasting? Well, fasting means choosing not to eat for a set period of time, but, and this is important, there's something deeper at play here than just not eating. The thought goes like this. When we're in our normal everyday lives and routines, it can be easy to just get swept along and forget to check in with God, right? No matter how good our intentions might be, life can get busy and a million things can start calling for our attention, and as we're climbing into bed after a long day, the realization hits. I don't think I've thought about God once today. But when hard things happen in our lives, all of a sudden, everything changes. We start checking in with God on the regular, telling Him how we're doing and asking for help. The discomfort of those challenging situations act as a prompt for us to stay in close communication with our Father. Well, fasting is about bringing just a little bit of that discomfort into our lives as a way of reminding ourselves, hey, it's time to check in with God. When our stomachs growl and gurgle, we use that small dose of discomfort as a springboard for remembering that God is with us and inviting Him into our lives. So this means fasting isn't something we're called to do all the time. If we fasted daily, it would become part of our routine, just one more of the many things asking for our attention, and that would defeat the whole purpose of the thing. Instead, it's a special thing we do now and then when we want to be more mindful of God's presence. Many people in the Old Testament fasted for periods of time, but back then, the practice was most often used as a part of the grieving process. When the Israelites confessed their sins in the book of Nehemiah, or when the exiles feared genocide in the book of Esther, they would change their clothes for sackcloth, put ashes on their head, and fast, all as a means of making their lament known to God. Once we get into the New Testament, fasting begins to look more like the kind of fasting we're used to today. When Jesus comes on the scene, one of the first things we see Him do is go on a truly epic, you probably shouldn't try this at home, 40-day fast. But there was an important reason why Jesus needed this extended time with His Father. Jesus hadn't actually started His ministry before He started this fast. It was imperative that He be on the same page as His Father before starting His ministry, because His work was going to change the entire world. Jesus' willingness to fast for this period prepared Him for being tempted in the desert, as well as for the next 3 years of ministry that were about to come. Fasting has continued to have a presence throughout church history. When the early church were faced with big issues, they would set aside time for prayer and fasting to better hear God's direction. Acts 13 says, "Now in the church at Antioch there were prophets and teachers. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, 'Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them.' So after they had fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off." Acts 13, 1-3. This passage brings up an important point. Fasting doesn't have to be something you do on your own. Many church communities have fasted together over the centuries, and this can be something you do with your family, friends, small group, or church as well. As the early church continued to grow over the coming centuries, many men and women embraced asceticism and took fasting and abstaining to the next level, doing away entirely with many of life's luxuries to better connect with God. While this level of devotion is impressive, it's important to remember that just because one person is called to serve God in a certain way, doesn't mean we all are. Whether you fast, and to what extent you fast, is a conversation between you and your Father, and one that can also be aided by wise people in your life. So today, I've been fasting from food. And to be honest, it has not been easy. It's been very uncomfortable. But what I'm learning through this fast is that I have so much more time in my day to spend with God. And I've found myself very uncomfortable wanting and craving food. But what I've been able to do is allow that discomfort, be a reminder to spend time with God, to take time and pray with Him. So many times in my life, it's easy to get distracted with just the busyness of life and oftentimes not spending time with Him. But what I've been learning through this fast is I have so much more time than I might think. to go to God in prayer and spend it with Him, getting to know more about Him in the process. I'm excited to break my fast, but I'm so much more excited to go closer to God through it. If you're thinking about trying fasting for yourself, it's good to have a plan. Figure out when and how long you'd like to fast. Lots of people fast at the beginning of the year, so you could give it a try next January. If you'd like to try fasting at regular intervals, like once a month, set a reminder on your phone so you don't forget. Next, figure out what you'd like to fast from. Maybe you've heard of the Daniel fast, the practice of only eating vegetables and drinking water, an imitation of a restricted diet eaten by Daniel and his young friends in the Old Testament. While Daniel's fast wasn't a true fast, he restricted his diet to avoid eating food offered to idols, rather than as a means of connecting with God. A Daniel fast is still a legitimate kind of fast, and that brings up a good point. Not all fasting looks the same. Sometimes you might cut out all food, other times, only some. Sometimes you might fast from specific activities like social media or watching TV. If it would be unwise for you to go without eating, or if there are other things you can't give up, that's okay. Talk to your doctor if you're unsure. As long as you're going without something in order to pursue your connection with God more closely, you're in fasting territory. Lastly, don't bring a lot of expectations into what fasting will look like. Just expect that if you make space for God, He will fill it. In our next video, we're going to discuss what it looks like to share our faith with other people. Click here to give it a watch.